Because when we get a negative emotion that arises from whatever, could be greed, anger, could be sorrow, whatever the strong emotion is that arises, we react in the exact same way. Now, the problem with this reaction, this habitual reaction, is that when we're reacting to the emotion, we're often never aware of the actual reality around us. So a few minutes before this class, I was sitting in watching the theater group. There might be a student in here or two that was in that class. But they were talking about a game. You know, they play out a scene, and they were calling it a game. And the instructor for the class was giving an insight into how they should proceed to make everything very, very clear as far as what the game is, so that everybody's very aware of the details of what's happening. Karma, based on these negative emotion, which that's called klesha, actually is completely lost to the game. It doesn't know the plot of the story. It's not aware of any real detail of a situation. So you feel this aggression, you fly off the handle, and most of the time this reaction is completely inappropriate for the event or the moment that you are in. How many of you have ever had a misunderstanding? Somebody says something, you misunderstand it, but get an emotional arise and react aggressively, and the person goes, wait, what's happening? Right? You've had that. When that reaction happens, it points out that you are not actually aware of the moment that you are in. There's no real mindfulness. So the Buddha calls this not being present. And so everything's misunderstood. And the problem with this habitual reaction is that it leads to more emotion. Because you act, then your environment reacts, then you have an emotional charge to that and another reaction. And so karma is that you are controlled by this delusive idea of what reality is, what is actually going on around you. And it perpetuates this horrible cycle. This causes tremendous amount of suffering because we either hate and don't want what is happening to us or how we feel, but can't figure out why that's happening, why we're in the same exact pattern over and over. Or we want more of something that we have experienced, but they're not sure how to get that. And so we grasp, oh, I want to be happy. I'm not sure how that is, so I'm going to become rich, I'm going to become famous, I'm going to become this, I'm going to use these substances or whatever, trying to find that and hold on to it. But it never lasts. So this repeating pattern is very problematic. And the term nirvana means to be liberated from that pattern. I don't know how many of you are fans of the Muppets, but there's a really great scene in Muppet Treasure Island, right? Miss Piggy is hanging off a cliff with Kermit, and they're going to, they have a rope, and this rope is burning, and they're going to fall to their death. And it turns out that the person that tied them up to kill them was this pirate that Miss Piggy had also dated. And as she's hanging from this rope, she goes, you know, I'm starting to see a pattern in the men that I date. They're always abandoning me or trying to kill me off. This kind of pattern, if we don't recognize it, this is what we call karma. We keep getting ourselves into the same situations. We're not sure why or how we get here. And what's really terrible is when we say, why am I in this again? And the person next to us goes, what are you talking about? I don't understand what you mean. But we're completely overwhelmed by this emotion and the reaction.